This is Architecture 360 here on Rivet Radio. I'm your host, Lee Bay. One of Chicago's largest and most distinctive landmarks looks in line for a little lipstick, powder, and paint of its own. I'm talking the rehab of the South Shore Cultural Center, a sprawling lakeside beauty at 71st and South Shore Drive. The building will get the treatment, including a new exterior promenade, stucco repair, and more. The Chicago Park District, which has owned the Cultural Center since the 1970s, asked city landmark officials this month for permission to make the repairs. The approval is needed because the building is a protected city landmark. Not a bad thing to happen for a century-old building that is among the city's largest publicly owned structures. South Shore Cultural Center, right now on Architecture 360. The South Shore Cultural Center was built in 1908 as a private South Shore country club. It was the work of Marshall and Fox, highline architects of the day, whose work included Chicago's Drake Hotel. For the club, they designed a 65-acre Mediterranean revival-style complex and clubhouse, a kind of a escapist fantasy the days before air travel, a bit of Lake Michigan turned into seaside Italy. Now, that sounds like a knock, but it really isn't. It's a fine building with great lines and proportions. The club stands a respectful distance from the lake, but is far enough from the busy intersection of 71st and South Shore Drive to feel a world away once you enter. It was a club for the upper crust that boasted of its own golf course, tennis courts, gun clubs, stables. Its ballroom was among the largest and best appointed in the city during its day. But that day had a major downside. You had to be white, Anglo-Saxon, and Protestant to join the club. A bit later, Irish Catholics were allowed in, but that was it. No black people and no Jews could join. It was a policy that wound up costing the club dearly in the 1950s and 1960s when well-off WASPs began leaving the area, causing membership to dwindle. Black and Jewish residents started making up a large portion of the communities surrounding the club, and they could have been potential new members, but the club's hardline prevailed. Until 1967, that is. Blacks and Jews and other groups were invited to join, but by then it was too late. The South Shore Country Club sold off its assets and went belly up in 1974. But the Chicago Park District stepped in 1975 and bought the club and the grounds for $10 million. That would be about $44 million today. And the magnificent complex, once closed off for many, was now open to everyone. The South Shore Cultural Center has done quite okay under Park District ownership. The grounds are well tended, and the building, which could use a flat-out restoration, is at least kept in a shape worthy enough to retain its status on the National Register of Historic Places. Under this rehab, the building's entry pergola columns and trellis, a dominant feature on the land side of the building, will be repaired, so would windows, doors, and more. No word yet on the cost of all this work, but with it, a priceless piece of Chicago architecture and history will be with us a little longer. That's Architecture 360 for now. Join us next time. I'm Lee Bay.
Lipstick.